All right, so right now we're going to talk about hormones. And you know what secretion means? To release, so to let go. Uniform, you know what that is, meaning all the same. So they're not, hormones are not released at the same rate. So they go up and down, depending on what the body needs, based on body needs. And low concentration, so very small amounts. So we're looking at micrograms of these substances moving around in your blood. And in general, hormones are used when you want long-lasting effects, or longer, I'll say longer-lasting effects, and that are broad over the body, over many cells, broad over the body. Forgot the R. So remember, it's a way to signal. You know, in general, your body needs to send a signal from one place to another. It can do it with nerves, or it can do it with hormones. So hormones are there when you want it to last a long time and use it for a lot of different places in the body. So again, with IV, we want to focus on this kind of global context. And we've got the International Society Control Iodine Deficiency, because people all over the world notice, hey, a lot of people aren't getting enough iodine. They're getting goiters, which means your thyroid is enlarging because the hypothalamus and pituitary are sending a lot of signals to your thyroid, and the thyroid can't react, so it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, sending lots of signals to thyroid, and the thyroid can't make hormones because lack of iodine. So lack of iodine in your diet, and it just gets bigger and bigger because there's not enough iodine. So what do people figure out to do? Somehow get iodine in the diet, and that will help people not get goiter. So by putting iodine in salt, so regular table salt, you'll see it'll say iodized, and by doing that, those rates have really decreased around the world. So a lot less goiter. So we got endocrine gland. So here we have endocrine cells. Secreting the hormone, we have these little bubbles right here. These are vesicles where they're making that hormone. It's going into the blood. It's kind of flowing through real good. Oh, popping out when it sees the target cell. Only certain cells that want or need that hormone will have the certain chemical signals or the proteins on their membrane to accept that hormone. And remember, these hormones can be peptide hormones like insulin, steroid, or non-steroid, steroid. And we think of steroids, we just think of like anabolic, illegal steroids, but your body has actual regular steroids. Your, of course, natural testosterone is a steroid, and everybody has that. There's also lipid hormones going through your body. So they bind to this receptor protein, like I mentioned. It'll be right here. So, for example, our steroid hormone floating around in the blood. Oh, it comes into contact. There's a target. And it comes in, and right here you'll see a protein receptor. Ooh, look at that handwriting. That's real good. protein receptor right here. You'll see the hormone and protein receptor bonded together in what's called a protein. Unsurprisingly, a protein receptor complex. So it bonds together, and guess what this is? Can you figure out what that is? I bet you know. This right here is your DNA inside your nucleus. Why don't you just go ahead and write that in, because this is kind of a good little review of protein synthesis, cell biology, everything. So we have the protein receptor complex go into the nucleus, and it modifies, it can turn on a gene, and that gene, I'll say, I gotta write that, turns on gene. And we know genes make mRNA. That's the message to make a protein, taken right from the DNA, and then it goes out to a ribosome. It can either be, remember that ribosome can be floating free or stuck to the ER. Remember your organelle project, your campaign, organelle campaign from last year. And boom, 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 we see this little thing popping out the top. That's the polypeptide. So, excellent little review of protein synthesis right there. And going from, turning that gene on, making the mRNA, going outside in the cytoplasm, joining that ribosome, and then popping out that polypeptide. And we see these hormones, peptide hormones, bonding to certain receptors. We saw from the back, the steroid hormone is lipid-based, so it can go through the membrane without much help. It's soluble with the middle of the membrane. So when we have our peptide hormones, like here, though it's protein-based, so you need a receptor. You need a protein receptor. That's not bad, right? To grab it and then send that signal into the cell. And when we have that, it goes to other chemicals inside and other molecules inside the cell. And we see a cascade mediated by the second messenger. And that second messenger, cyclic AMP. Make a note, second. So basically you just have these cascade, all these molecules interacting, leading up to, say, a kinase reaction, and then more enzymes, and then, say, a response. For example, arteries constricting. So behind here, I'll move my face later, and you can write in cascade of reactions. So cascade, this is our cascade. Also, some of my favorite mountains up in Washington State, Cascade. Yeah, that's the Cascade right there. But it's just basically different molecules all interacting and just transferring that message from one to the other. We need to talk about that hypothalamus up in your brain. So this is in your brain. And you got the hypothalamus here, and right underneath it you got your pituitary. So the posterior pituitary, you'll see that's back here. You have the signal traveling from the hypothalamus down there. Nerve impulse gets it going. And here you have the anterior pituitary. And you got these releasing factors getting secreted and going through this portal vein to activate the different proteins or different hormones. And here's a better, maybe this is a better description of the hormones that come out of the posterior. It's kind of cut off here. This is your posterior pituitary. So the uterine muscles of the mammary glands, that's oxytocin. That's for birth. You know, if you remember, you get that secretion of the oxytocin right at the end, and that'll help stimulate childbirth. And of course, kidney, if you remember from topic 11, that's your antidiuretic hormone coming from the posterior pituitary, which helps you preserve or save water. We talk about saving water all the time with, washing your, turning off the sink. Don't wash more than you have to. Don't take a super long shower. But your own body has its own saving water mechanism. Thyroid gland, of course, we have thyroid stimulating hormone. Ignore that. TSH from the anterior pituitary. Do I have that? Yeah, anterior pituitary. Okay. So you have also FSH and LH stimulating the ovaries and the testes. And you have growth hormone that goes all over the body to stimulate growth. And then prolactin. It's kind of hard to see all right there here. So prolactin for milk production in females. So looking at growth hormone, it can cause growth in animals. They give little mice, rabbits, other sorts of test animals growth hormone, and they grow. And it can be now, I think it's been able to be produced synthetically for quite some time. So synthetically, so human-made. You can get, some little kids have disorders where they don't have enough growth hormones. They can get injected. They don't need enough to make sure they grow to a normal height. But then some athletes inject GH. It can increase muscle mass, but primarily athletes, professional athletes, they want to recover quickly. And, just from exercising. And, of course, for injuries, professional, gosh, I'm having a hard time with my handwriting, dang it. Injuries, because you're, exercising constantly and competing, you're going to get injured. So there's no way around it. Professional athletes are going to get injured. They need some way to recover quickly. That's basically athletes that are successful in natural circumstances are the ones that tend not to get injured and that can heal quickly. Just naturally they have, we all have different abilities to do that. But now, because of growth hormone, everybody can get that benefit. It's not like a natural effect anymore or natural ability. It's illegal to take this stuff without a doctor's prescription. And there are side effects like growth of different body parts, especially your hands, your feet, your head. We looked at Barry Bonds. I have that on the picture, you'll notice. His head grew 2 hat sizes when he was at the end of his career taking a lot of growth hormone. And the main problem, tumors like cancers. So it increases your risk of having problems with cancer. And you definitely don't want to increase your risk of having cancer. Everybody has a certain risk. Definitely the rewards do not outweigh the risks involved. You don't want to get cancer. Even if you're a professional athlete, your career is going to be over at some point, but most athletes want to go on forever, and a lot of times they'll take drugs to try to do that. So we see that this is Ronnie Coleman. He was mentioned earlier. His back is essentially broken permanently from some surgeries he had to have done because of his workouts and everything, and has trouble walking. So just think about somebody who obviously looks very fit, muscular. There's a toll to all this on your body, though. Your body just can't tolerate all this extra muscle mass and all that training it takes to build that. Your body's going to start to break down later in life. So it might be great when you're 20, 30, but once you're 40, 50, the injuries, the pain just starts adding up. And here's a picture of Barry Bonds. It's pretty obvious. You can see the growth in his head from when he first came out as a rookie. And I have a bunch of baseball. There's a huge, late 90s. There was a huge scandal with baseball players, and leading into the 2000s with Barry Bonds. Look it up, Balco, Bay Area Lab Corporation or Cooperative. Got a lot of these pro baseball players on these regimens taking steroids, growth hormone, and check this out. Bam! That's not natural. Seriously. If it doesn't look natural, it's not natural. They're taking stuff. Here's another. Jose Canseco is probably one of the most famous. Now look how small he is here, and then later on. You just don't get that way unless you're taking stuff. So a couple of hormones we need to know about: prolactin and oxytocin, we mentioned earlier. Anterior pituitary, the prolactin, and nursing stimulates continued creation of that prolactin. During pregnancy, though, estrogen increases the prolactin, but it inhibits the production of milk from the mammary glands. So you have a lot, but the production isn't there. But during delivery, those estrogen levels just drop, and then that inhibition of the production is removed, and then the mammary glands start to produce that milk. But yeah, huge drop in estrogen as the baby's being born. So oxytocin stimulates the contraction of the cells that surround these milk-producing glands. Oh, remember alveoli? That's what they're called, which is kind of confusing because that's exactly what the little circular structures in the lungs are called to help exchange gas. And nursing stimulates more oxytocin, so more milk.